I want you to feel empowered by the knowledge that GAAP is not the only way to manage a small law firm to profitability.
You're listening to the Profit First for Lawyers podcast, the official companion show to the book Profit First for Lawyers by RJon Robins. Now, this podcast is for you if you want to bring home more profit while working fewer hours in the office, spending even more time with your loved ones, and turning your office into a lean, mean, profit-breathing machine. So if you're tired of working for your law firm instead of your law firm working for you, stay tuned for some really practical insights that will get you the results you've always wanted. It's time to put your BS aside for the next few minutes and put yourself, your family, your firm, and your profit first. Welcome back to the Profit First for Lawyers podcast. I'm your host, Carly, and today we are in our virtual studio with Pietro Canestrelli. Pietro, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be on.
I am very excited to have you on.
Awesome.
We obviously have spoken quite a number of times at various events that How to Manage a Small Law Firm has done, and you have such a fun and just really inspiring but also unusual story. Someday somebody's going to make a movie about it. Well, go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience. Tell us kind of your background and your practice area.
Yeah, I'm Pietro Canestrelli. I'm a tax attorney. I've been a tax attorney for 27 years. Yes, I am old. First 6 years I spent as a tax attorney with the IRS in the national office in Washington, D.C. I spent about 11 years after that working for small and mid-sized firms as a tax attorney. I opened up my own firm 10 years ago. We actually had the 10th anniversary in February. Lots of fun. And for the past 5 years, we've been HTM members, and that's when the growth kind of exploded. And I'm also an author of America's Tax Offender, Stories of Taxpayers Who Fought the IRS and Won. And it has a foreword by a certain RJon Robins.
Pietro, I had no idea that that was officially published. I had heard about that, but I didn't realize it was out and about. We will put a link to the book if anybody would like to go and get a copy. You should. Your stories are always like concise and also all the most interesting parts. Yeah. And maybe that's because you have a performance background. You didn't really talk about your time in the circus.
Sure. I grew up in the circus. I come from a long line of circus performers. I'm the sixth of my family, the Canestrellis, and I worked on 10 shows when I was younger. We kind of graduated to bigger arena shows when I was a young adult. And then I switched over when I was around 25. I switched over and went to school, which I hadn't done before, and went to college, went to law school, and I ended up at the IRS, and that began my career as a tax attorney.
What attracted you to that part of law? That's just such a switch. I mean, really anything probably in the business world would have been, but especially tax law. That's something else entirely.
I happen to have worked for a professor in law school who was he had worked for the IRS at a special program, a professor. They take a professor and they let him work at the IRS national office for a year, and he has a special project. And he had done that a few years prior. So he still had a lot of connections at the Washington office. And I was fortunate enough that they were hiring, because unlike businesses, the government doesn't hire when they need somebody. They hire when it's budgeted and it's approved. So they had gotten a budget to hire for a couple years, and it was right when I was graduating. I flew out there in January. I got the job contingent on me passing the bar. So we moved out there in July, right after I took the California bar, and we spent 6 years of our lives out in the Washington, D.C. area. I hated working for the IRS. And it had nothing to do with the people. You know, people were my friends and colleagues, and and this was kind of a surprise to me, not actually having a job that actually helps people. Again, surprisingly, I could not do that job. I couldn't stay there any longer. So I've been in private practice ever since, and as an employee of various firms, and then opened up my own firm 10 years ago.
I'm so glad that you brought that perspective too. I am also another one of those people that if I am not doing a job that makes me feel professionally fulfilled in more than just a financial way, I couldn't do a job just for a paycheck. It's just not in me. I don't have that personality.
I thought I could do it. I thought I was like, yes, government job. I will have this job forever. I will have, in a few years, I will have, 3-4 weeks of vacation every year. I could kind of set my own hours. This sounds wonderful. And we had little ones. Our kids were young at that time. This is almost 30 years ago now.
Well, I am so glad that you kind of went off and built your own path, especially because now I get to talk to you today, which I have been wanting to get you into the seat for a very long time. So let's go ahead and switch tacks then. I know that you brought a specific clip from the studio today. Do you want to go ahead and introduce the clip that you brought?
The clip is from Chapter 8 that kind of talks about GAAP accounting. I think there is a lot of confusion for business owners, universal, not just law firm owners, about what GAAP actually is and what it means. And this chapter really hits the nail on the head on what GAAP really is and what it means for you.
This is a spicy chapter. All right, I'm excited to talk about this one. Oh, let's roll the clip.
I want you to feel liberated when you recognize that GAAP isn't gospel. I want you to feel empowered by the knowledge that GAAP is not the only way to manage a small law firm to profitability. I want you to feel encouraged knowing that GAAP is certainly not even the best way. It's never been the best way to manage your law firm to maximum profitability. I want you to clearly understand that GAAP wasn't meant for you and me, and it's a mismatch. So if your ego or your self-esteem has been taking a beating, I know I'm a good lawyer and I work so hard, so why can't I take any profits from my law firm? I'm hoping these statements that I've just made give you some relief and the courage to lay down the law, pun intended, to your bookkeeper or your accountant, that you are going to liberate yourself from GAAP and begin taking advantage of profit-first accounting principles instead.
Awesome. And more business owners need to know this. I've had hundreds of business clients over the years in the tax world. And they kind of fall into two categories. One is they don't have any bookkeeping whatsoever, which is always
terrifying.
Right. Terrifying, a disaster waiting to happen, a disaster that's going to happen. The other extreme is, and this is better, turn it over to get a bookkeeper, get a CPA, and then blindly listen to what they say. And they have their job to do. But accounting in general is a tool. And a lot of people think that GAAP accounting it's not the gospel, it's not even law. It is just a form of accounting made specifically for when third parties interact each other. Meaning, if you need certified accounting to get a loan, okay, the bank understands GAAP accounting. So you have to present them an accounting that follows the GAAP rules. But for your own internal navigation tools, so to speak, because accounting really is a tool. You know what money is coming in, what expenses are going out. You're not bound by those rules, and Profit First for Lawyers makes changes to kind of what GAAP wants to see, but it's fine. You can do that. There is nothing stopping you. And guess what? GAAP accounting is not tax accounting either. Tax accounting has its own rules that deviate from GAAP accounting. So guess what? Even the IRS doesn't follow GAAP accounting. So if your bookkeeper says we have to follow GAAP accounting, you will say, when we need that $50 million loan, we will do a GAAP accounting books. Until then, let's have that line where it's supposed to be at the top for our profits, feel free to liberate yourself from GAAP accounting.
I'd never even thought to think about what kind of accounting practices that they use, that the IRS uses, that your tax accounting uses. Yeah, because I mean, it's so true, right? Like, everybody thinks this is the standard. I mean, I guess it kind of is a standard by definition, right? Is the thing that most people are using. It's
It is
standard,
the language that two parties could use, and they don't have to go through a process of agreeing what accounting is, what we're going to look at. It's already there. It's the model that everybody uses. Now, for small business owners, and we're small business owners, even if you're making $10-20 million, as far as the IRS is concerned, you're still a small business owner. You're not bound by that. You're not going public. Okay, you're not doing IPO. You're not getting a huge loan. You don't even need GAAP accounting when you're buying a business. You don't have to demand that, as long as you understand. So this is for something that's, I don't want to say at a different level, but is using it for a different purpose. And if you're comfortable with your numbers, you could say you wanted a total owner benefit of a particular employee. That doesn't really follow GAAP either, because you kind of have expenses here and bar expenses here. But it's fine to do that. I mean, to do a total comp package for a particular employee, so you can know what you're actually spending on an employee, that doesn't follow GAAP rules either, but you could do that. There's nothing wrong with setting up the table of accounts that way.
You yourself do follow profit first accounting principles. And as somebody who's had, more than 25 years in the industry, and specifically as a lawyer, when did you first hear about Profit First? And was it kind of like here's an obvious thing after your experience, or did you have to be talked into implementing it yourself?
I don't think I needed to be talked into it, but there does come a time, and we had this during, in the last 5 years, probably about 2 years in, as we're accelerating our growth and revenues are going great, and you're all happy about revenue, because we 10x'd in 4 years our revenue, and then we doubled our revenue again. So you're all about revenue, and then you hear about, then you start looking at the numbers a little bit more, with a little bit more education, with a stronger skill stack of what you're actually looking at. And you realize, oh, I have a lot of employees, I have a lot of vendors, they're doing very well, but I'm not doing very well. One of my attorneys is making more money than I am. I'm like, wait a minute, we have to focus on profit, because profit is what lands in my pocket and what feeds me, and I'm doing a lot of work, and I should get paid at least as much as one of my attorneys is getting paid. So Profit First for Lawyers came about around the same time. So it's like, let's implement these principles. Let's make sure that profit is focused on and taken off the top, so to speak, versus waiting for the bottom line. Let's scrape those profits out. And the other thing it does, and it's in the book, it kind of stress tests your business. Okay. You don't know if your business is running well if you're not taking that profit off the top. Okay. You don't know if your business could weather a storm, because you're kind of cruising around, you're banking all this money. Don't do that. You take the money out and put it in your pocket and make the business work on its own. Okay. So it came around the same time that I was realizing that, hey, revenue is wonderful, but it really is the money that gets down to the owner that you really should care about, or else you're working for other people and they're not working for you, right?
Yeah. Or the person you're working for is yourself, but you only have a job.
I'm not working so other people can make more money than me within my organization, unless they're bringing in a huge amount of value. I mean, if a dragon could bring in, multi-million dollars worth of cases and they're making more money than me, I could live with that. What we do is we set what our profit is, or total, profit plus salary, total owner benefit. We set that at the beginning of the year. This is what I have to make. And we're going to make that. That's coming out every month. And we're going to make it, we adjust what we want to what the business does.
My other question then for you, Pietro, so you've been doing profit first accounting, you've been using profit first accounting principles for about 3-ish years then?
Yeah. Yes.
And as somebody who is intimately familiar with numbers, what kind of difference have you seen in your firm as far as, some of the promises that RJon has made, right? A lot of people don't end up looking at their numbers until they implement. You obviously have, so you've got a really great before and after snapshot.
The number one thing and the only thing that's really important to me is I make more money than anybody else in my organization.
As you should.
By far. And I don't apologize for that. My 2-word for growth is courage and math. And you have to know math. And if you don't have, a CFO, a fractional CFO, get one. You don't know what's hiding in your financial report. You might not even look at it. You might just be happy that somebody generates it for you every month. Your CFO is going to coach you and teach you how to leverage that and leverage your profits and making sure that profits go to you and you're not overpaying here or overpaying there. It's going to point you to what your price point for your services are. I mean, we were just discussing hiring someone, another attorney, and it had to be a no-go because what he was asking for just does not pencil out. We could never make money on him. And we kind of kicked around, well, best case scenario, he's going to do this. And it's like, let's not go there. Let's assume he's going to be an average employee like everybody else is. And if he's a superstar, then there's all sorts of bonus opportunities and he can make that up. But I'm not pulling the trigger on an employee on the assumption that he's going to be a superstar and we're going to no. We have to make money on him if he's the average employee, that 80% of the people that you hire are going to be average employees. 10% might be superstars, 10% are going to be duds. So that is the type of decisions that math makes easy. You may love this guy might do great in interviews, and you have a certain amount of rapport with this person. He seems a perfect fit culturally, but the math does not pencil out. So have the courage when you have the math to say no to the things that make no math sense. Build up your skill stack of how all of this works. So it's an easy decision on marketing. It's an easy decision on hiring. It's an easy decision on all sorts of things when you have the math done. So learn the math.
It's scary. I know a lot of people have an aversion to looking at their numbers, especially law firm owners. So I have heard, having not been myself a law firm owner.
Another universal, trust me, I've represented every kind of business you could imagine. And by far, the vast majority of business owners don't look at their numbers. They don't want to look at their numbers because they're scared and they don't think they need to take the time of learning the math. The time you look at your numbers is the time when they look terrible. And if you could look at them daily, I look at revenue, I look at production, and I look at new matters and leads every single day. It takes me about 5 minutes. And sometimes I want to be sick looking at these numbers. And sometimes I'm like, oh, wow, we're going to have a record month. most times I'm like, okay, we're doing fine. But I strongly suggest get comfortable with looking numbers, especially when they're bad, because that's when you as owner are earning your keep, earning your profit. When the numbers are bad, that's when you become whether you're going to make profits the next month or you're going to just do this. And this is a pet peeve in my firm. No one's allowed to just do this. And no one's allowed to do that in production and marketing. No, no one's allowed to do that.
For those who are only listening, Pietro is kind of doing the Charlie Brown shrug.
Right. I don't know. Let's see.
So, RJon has a new book that's going to be coming out in August. And when I was interviewing him about it, which is a really fun interview, by the way. So anyway, stay tuned for that. I'll link it eventually once we've got it up and running. But he quoted somebody, it was something along the lines of like, you can evade seeing reality, but you cannot avoid the consequences from evading seeing reality. Not a direct quote, but I think everybody knows what I'm trying to get at here, right? Like there is a certain amount of, when you're a kid and you put your blanket over your head and think, if I can't see you, you can't see me, right? I think sometimes that's the case with numbers, right? If I can't see them, they're probably fine.
Right. And, it took me a long time, and I'm a tax attorney, and it took me a long time to have the courage to look every day at the numbers. And like I say, it's not pleasant every time. It's sometimes you want to punch somebody. Sometimes you're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? But your reaction gets better the more you look at it. So I rarely get sick from the numbers. And nowadays, I get concerned, meaning what's going on here? Why is this attorney not producing? What happened? We had a weird thing that happened from consult to show up. All of a sudden that dropped. So, in a week period, we went from, the typical 90% consult to show up rate to, it's 68%. It's what is going on. And it turned out that our new intake person needed more training. She was not doing she was not following the SOP quite closely, the glide path. She was not building that confidence in the NPC. NPC is a new potential client for non-HCM members.
Thank you.
But we got on it. We saw what the problem was, and we got on it. And that was just last week. And our numbers are better this week. She's doing better.
That's so important too, because that is what, like, close to a 25% difference in show up, right? And if people aren't showing up, you can't sell them. But it sounds like it was a pretty simple fix. You probably wouldn't have known, though, for months had you not been in the habit of looking at your numbers.
We would have never known if we didn't look at the numbers. We would have wondered, hey, why don't we have as many cases? Oh, well, you got to look at every stage. It's not that hard to do. With software and all that, the numbers are there.
We were talking and you had mentioned, right, like you used to be bad at looking at the numbers in the early days too. And that kind of surprised me because you are a tax lawyer. So you would think that the numbers would be easy for you to look at.
I had the exact same fear as all business owners. I don't want to look at this because this is a reflection on me. And it means that I'm doing a bad job. And I'm not a real business owner. What am I doing here? You have to have courage to do the things you don't want to do that scare you or disappoint you or know that are going to have a bad reaction to you. It's not easy. Some people it's easier. It was never easy for me. It's still not easy for me, but I do it because I realize that, again, if you want to have profits first, you better have the math done. You better have the courage to look at the math too, right?
Oh, I mean, very much so.
What I would do when we started out and we started growing is I would go hide in business. I knew I could do this tax procedure really well. I could do it in my sleep. I probably have done it in my sleep. So instead of doing the owner things, I did, basically a legal assistant things because I was so comfortable. I could do that so well. And I would go hide over there and not go over here where the owner is supposed to be. But I think when we started focusing on profits and focusing on what we want the business to give us as far as profits are concerned, that's when nobody's going to look at the numbers like the owner is going to look at the numbers. I mean, this is, oh, my bookkeeper did this or my CPA did this. No, they're creating the numbers. They're not looking at the numbers for profit. And, that's a whole different, comptroller may do that. We don't have that yet. Your fractional CFO may help you that, but only you. And that's your job. One of your jobs is to look at the numbers every day. Different numbers weekly, and then different numbers monthly, and then different numbers quarterly. We really look at quarters for the profits, and we got to hit this profit goal in this quarter. So looking at the numbers is very important.
As you were speaking, I was thinking, well, yeah, it's because it literally forces it. Here's what you have left to work over. Because me as the owner, I am not willing to sacrifice my health and my family and my long-term happiness in this business. And so therefore, here's what we have to work with. And because I know that here's what we have to work with, we got to get creative.
When you do an exercise like profit first, and maybe this is RJon's secret thing that he's trying to get accomplished here, it pushes your mind into the ownership realm. The creativity of being an attorney and writing a wonderful memo or doing a tax plan or figuring out great solutions for your clients within a case is what everybody digs on, right? Attorneys love to do this. And everybody does with a specialized skill, love to do this. As a business owner, okay, you have that opportunity to be creative too. Meaning, you realize that, oh, if I could shift this function over to a lower paid person, I could offer it a little bit less and I could make more profit on it.
And free up your time.
Everybody does it the opposite at the beginning, the wrong way, meaning they know what they charge, they figure out all their expenses, and then, they have a skew. When in reality, and then they have their profit margin. When in reality, you start off with, I need to make at least a 90% profit margin on this. Let's run the numbers and figure out all what needs to be done on this, what we could give the client, what we could deliver. And then we will set the price to make sure we're making a 90% profit on the production costs. Okay. You got to do it that way. And that is very creative. Profit First for Lawyers will get your mind thinking in that direction, among all the other stuff it does. And think of yourself primarily as a business owner and not as an attorney. It's hard for attorneys. It's hard for me. I'm sure it's hard for everybody because we've been taught that attorneys are great and business owners are not great. I mean, that's what they teach in law school for 3 years. They hammer it through you, and everybody teaches you at the bar that attorney's great, business owner not great. Every business owner brings value to their client or customers. It doesn't matter how you do it or what vehicle you do it in. The more you could think about ownership and bringing value and new services to your clients that they need, the more you're going to succeed as an owner. You have to make that conscious decision that now I am a business owner and I am no longer an attorney, and I can't think of like a solo practice attorney anymore. I could do so much more, help so many more people being an owner and setting the culture, setting the numbers, watching the numbers, setting the culture of my firm, bringing much better value than they're getting now from other sources. But you have to consciously make that decision in your mind. And a lot of people are not ready, and that's fine too.
Pietro, let me ask you then, because you were in a unique position to speak about the financials of an awful lot of business owners in general, not just law firms. Do you recommend that they use profit first accounting principles if they haven't already?
Yes, you should. You should do two things. One is profit first accounting principles for all the reasons we discussed and all the reasons that's in the book. And the other thing you should do as you grow is, and I have a vested interest in this, is you should do tax planning. Because guess what? Every tax dollar you save through proactive, defensible planning, not we're going to make stuff up before we file the return. We've seen that too many times, is another dollar of profit for you. It's not a dollar for your employee. It's not a dollar for your vendors. It's a dollar for you. So it goes hand in hand with profit first, good tax planning.
Well, yeah, and it does too, right? Because you got to have your tax account is one of the principal accounts, right? You got to, plan for how much you're going to pay, but then the additional step is make sure that you have a good plan and a good advisor that can help you make the most of your tax benefits.
And that's another good thing about profit first. It's like you're going to take profit and you're going to be taking out the tax to pay for that profit. Okay. So if we could help you lower, and you're going to put that in a separate account, just like you should have an account for your taxes, so you don't get hit with late filing, late paying penalties. It adds up. And every dollar of penalty is, again, a dollar of profit that should be in your pocket. Okay, right? So make sure you have those accounts that hold your taxes so you could pay taxes at the correct time. Make your estimate quarterly during the year. It's really important too. And they go hand in hand. If you have profits and you start to really see what you can do with your life, there's a world of difference than making, $300,000 a year in your pocket than making $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million a year in your pocket. There is a difference. Trust me, I know. When you start focusing on profits, you need to start focusing on tax planning at the same time.
If you're not currently using profit first accounting, number one, do it. But number two, just do a little bit of research on GAAP. Reread chapter 8 in Profit First for Lawyers if you have it, and get comfortable with the idea that this is not a law. This is not something that you are required to do, and it's certainly not the best way to run a business, any business that is not a publicly traded company, right? Even the IRS doesn't do their accounting this way.
Foundational to that is accounting is a tool for you, for your business. Adapt the tool to your method. You're not going to have a 747 dashboard to pilot a two-person plane, right? It's not going to be the same dashboard. So just like GAAP accounting is for something different, and you're going to want a dashboard that's going to be the most important things to fly that smaller plane, right? So customize your dashboard, but get a working knowledge of your financials. That I think, if you have that, then you have the confidence to tell your bookkeeper, no, we're going to do this, because a bookkeeper and a CPA will run over you because they want to be the authority.
Yes. Ooh, okay, Pietro, if I was going to distill down everything that we had talked about so far today, I would say get really comfortable with your numbers. Number two, I was going to say make sure that you have really good financial professionals that you are working with who can help you, number one, make a profit, right? You should not be paying your employees to work for you more than your business is paying you to own it.
Right. Just like the best way, the most efficient, proactive way to use your fractional C-suite is to kind of set the agenda, be the boss, and talk about the things you want to talk about and the things you want to accomplish. It's the same with a bookkeeper. It's the same with any professional. Take the lead on that. Don't just lay back and say, oh, well, they prepared the numbers. I guess I'm fine. No.
I appreciate that, because that was going to be number 3, right? Is courage and math, right? Have the courage to look at your data and to know what it means. Ask more questions. This is your business. This is what you have thrown yourself into. You are creating jobs. You are creating value. You are doing good work, and you deserve to be paid. And also, you can't make any decisions for your business if you don't know what reality is. And the only way to know what reality is to look at your numbers.
And it's a positive feedback loop. I mean, if you have the courage to look at the numbers and change the numbers, then the better numbers and understanding that will give you the courage to make other decisions, hiring decisions, marketing decisions. They work in tandem, back and forth, courage and math.
Will you just give us a quick snapshot, if you're comfortable with talking about numbers, right, of where your business was prior to HTM and where you're at today from a gross revenue standpoint?
Yeah, we're a successful story for HTM. So we joined at the end of 2020. Our revenue was $185,000 and change. Probably take home was probably $130,000, let's call it. We didn't have a huge overhead where it was just me and Kristen. Last year, 2025, we did $5.3 million, which is nice, but we also did $2.5 million in profit, a total owner benefit, I should say, because a lot of that has to be shifted around for tax purposes, as compensation, as this and that. But we had a very good year last year.
Yeah, I mean, once you get there, hard to go back.
It's a mental thing that once you have the money cannon and you realize what the money cannon can do, you don't want to ever go back not having that money cannon when you know that you could have the money cannon. It just takes a little courage and math.
Pietro, I'm so glad that you brought this to us today. I want to ask you my last question of the day. What is one of the most profitable pieces of advice that you have taken action on since joining HTM that has made an improvement to your life, to your business, or to your finances? And it can't be profit first.
Yeah. The number one thing that we had a big mental block on, and we were encouraged from the get-go, from Crash Course, First CEO and all that, is you hire people that are better than you at a particular thing. I am a great attorney and no one could do this but me is really a bad mindset, and it's completely outside of reality, because there are always better attorneys than you. There's always better marketing people than you. There's always better intake people than you. There's going to be better salespeople dragging than you. Hire them in a billable model, flat rate model. You're never going to get $2 million in total owner benefits by not having a team. And guess what? You're going to hire all the wrong people initially, but you will learn your skill stack of evaluating people and not going and using the math. It's going to get better and better and better. Your firm culture is going to get better and better and better. I love my team now. I mean, sometimes you have to talk to somebody, or sometimes people have to leave. But I really enjoy working with the team, which is another surprising thing. I have this from a personal experience too. A team of lawyers, if you have a lot of lawyers and a lot of legal assistant, a lot of production people, you have so much leverage versus a sole practitioner. Sole practitioner, you get sick for a few days, your clients suffer. Doesn't happen when you have a big team. You could shift things over. Things that are important get shifted over to another team or another legal assistant. And having a bunch of people think about a problem and coming up with solutions is better than one brilliant mind by themselves. Okay. because you're going to have an off day. So hire people, hire them as soon as possible. You're going to, with the knowledge, with everything in business owner, you're going to make mistakes, but that's okay. You will figure it out. And that is the key to growth. So much of the legal work is not legal work. It's communication with clients, right? It's making sure things actually happen in an efficient way. Focus on that. Focus on making sure that sort of stuff happens. Okay. And that is what everybody complains about when there's bar complaints. They don't complain, well, this guy, his legal strategy was, he didn't cite quite the right case law when he wrote this memo. There were 2 other cases he could have thrown in there. They don't do that. They say, my lawyer didn't talk to me. I called him and he never called me back, or I emailed him and never got an answer. This is what the bar complaints are. So focus on that as an owner, making sure that happens, because lawyers don't want to do that. You got to train them to do that and have systems to do that. So hire people that are better than you and focus on running the business.
Yeah. Thank you so much for bringing this, Pietro. I'm so glad that we finally got you in. I think that this is chock full of stuff that is not only useful, but also really actionable in a way that's like, go put this into practice today. Now, remind me again, Pietro, you are tax law, so obviously you're federal. You can pretty much work with anybody, anywhere, in any state.
Anyone in the world who has a federal IRS issue, we could help. Anyone who pays federal taxes to the IRS, we could tax plan for you.
So how would somebody who might be looking for an amazing tax strategist, how would they find you?
www.ietaxattorney.com. Any HTM member could email me directly, and I will be more than happy to answer their questions. Always looking for referral partners, always looking to help people either doing tax strategy for clients or tax strategy for themselves.
All right, folks. Well, I hope that was as impactful for you as it was for me. Stay tuned next time for even more great information, and we'll see you there. Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Profit First for Lawyers podcast. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, tell a friend and buy your copy of the book at profitfirstforlawyers.com. Your future self will thank you for it, and we will see you next time.